Welcome to Brick's Picks. I'm Brick, and I want to bring on a man that needs no introduction. If you're familiar with the NFT spaces on Twitter, Jack Wardale, thank you so much for gracing me with your presence. I appreciate your time and getting to talk to you a little bit about your NFTs.
Absolutely, man. It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me, you're a PhD psychologist studying interpersonal gratitude. What's your thesis on interpersonal gratitude?
Yeah, so basically what I'm looking at is the difference between intrapersonal and interpersonal gratitude and looking at the effect on subjective well-being. There's been a ton of research in the literature about intrapersonal gratitude, which is the very classic, what am I grateful for? Gratitude journaling, things like that. But I want to explore interpersonal gratitude, actually thanking someone else. And I believe that that social dimension of, saying thank you to someone else actually improve subjective well-being more so than just intrapersonally and introspectively thinking about what you're grateful for. So I'm currently doing a research project that looks at contesting the two together, and I'm excited to see, hopefully, my hypothesis to be accurate, which is that I think interpersonal gratitude is stronger in predicting subjective well-being than intrapersonal gratitude because of the social component.
For those that don't know the difference between interpersonal and intrapersonal, can you briefly summarize that? I know that's a loaded question. Briefly,
No, absolutely. So intrapersonal gratitude is kind of just reflecting on yourself and maybe like slightly existentially, like what the age-old question, what am I grateful for? That really is intrapersonal gratitude. It's just basically reflecting on yourself and just saying, what am I grateful for? Maybe writing some things down about, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful, to be, doing what I'm doing or whatever it might be. Whereas interpersonal gratitude is very directly being thankful for someone else. And that's actually not only being thankful for someone else, but actually then going as far as telling them. So saying thank you is a prime example of interpersonal gratitude. You are telling them very directly, I appreciate what you did for me. So I want to look at those two different types of gratitude and how they kind of factor into subjective well-being. And like I said, I'm hoping to find that interpersonal gratitude is actually a stronger predictor of subjective well-being than intrapersonal gratitude.
I want to thank you for that. I know that was a little bit on the spot there for the difference.
No, you're good. No, that's what I'm paid to do, man. So yeah, no worries.
Your spaces, you keep them a safe space. What makes a Twitter space safe, and why is it important to build these safe spaces? What are the narratives we're trying to express in these safe spaces?
Yeah, definitely. So I always make it a firm priority that there's an air of inclusivity. I have been in spaces where it's very male heavy. They're not very inclusive. They don't really invite people to come up on stage. And it almost feels like you're almost like eavesdropping on a group chat. And it's just not a vibe for me. If we are trying to build community, then it needs to be just that. And I feel like if I was going to, shoot around with some of my friends, I would do it privately. There's no reason to do that in a public forum. So I feel a certain sense of responsibility that if I'm going to host a space or co-host, then I want to make it a conversation between all of us. It shouldn't just be reserved to maybe 4 or 5 people on a stage. It should be whoever wants to join the conversation should be able to. So I'm consciously trying to encourage new people up on the stage. I'm trying to especially invite women on the stage so that other women can see that there is other women on the stage and that they feel therefore more comfortable, because it does feel a male dominated place sometimes. And I think the cool thing is that naturally with the profile pictures not always being ourselves, there is a lot of diversity in these spaces, which is fantastic. And that's another thing that I seek to encourage as frequently as possible. So I think really it just boils down to the responsibility that I feel to build community on values that I would love to see in the real world, such as diversity, love, compassion, support. And if I can try and breathe that into spaces and make people feel like they can talk about even the most vulnerable things, that for me is moving forward as a community, right? And I feel like that doesn't always exist in the real world. So to see it be able to happen in these digital spaces is just it's beautiful, quite frankly, and it's something that I'm very proud of trying to cultivate. And I know other people share the same values that I do, and they're also trying to proactively do that. So I think we'll keep seeing it more and more. But as of right now, all I can control is the spaces I'm in, and if I can create those inclusive environments and those vulnerable places that people can feel comfortable speaking on, then I'm winning, and then we're all winning. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
I think it's really great that you're inviting so many people up, women, people, other people that normally wouldn't have that voice or that platform to be able to speak and to be able to let their voices and minds and individuality be heard.
Yeah, no, I think it's just one of those where who am I not to be inclusive, right? I think we are all guilty of being exclusive sometimes without even realizing it, whether that's prejudice, whether that's, you know, discriminating, and not in the traditional sense. I think discrimination, the word is obviously has a very negative connotation, but we all discriminate, right? Because we're all different. So naturally there is an air of discrimination, but it's about trying to break those walls down that society has built that causes that negative connotation to discrimination. Because to be discriminating, I mean, it is a beautiful thing. If we were all the same, then it would be a pretty boring world, right? So there is an air of discrimination just in the world in general, but those negative connotations of discrimination, like the fact that we exclude people based on the color of their skin or their gender, that's what I want to completely eradicate. That should never be going on. And in fact, instead, we should be celebrating our differences and you know, what discriminates us from each other. So discrimination is a very weird term that has a very like taboo, like negative, like connotation with it. But the word to discriminate just means that they're differences that we have. And I think to discriminate doesn't always mean to hurt people for being different, but it can actually be celebrated for being different. And that's what I'm trying to preach, is that we should be celebrating our differences and acknowledging that we are different, but in the most beautiful way possible. And that is where these different perspectives come from that ultimately make the community what it is today.
Okay. So classically, you're into video and cinema and photography. Why the poetry space in NFT?
Yeah, I think it kind of just happened by accident, really. I think after being in the space for 6 months and realizing that the video capabilities of these marketplaces just aren't where they need to be for me to really like show my true colors as a videographer. I think we're very limited to what we can upload in terms of file size, resolution. So for me, it was, okay, well, I can't do video. What else is there? And I think I could have easily put some photos out there and tried to do, you know, like a lot of the NFT photographers have done. But I've always loved writing, and I'd never shared it really publicly with anyone. It was something that has always been near and dear to me. And because I'd used it as kind of a mechanism to deal with my mental health throughout my life, once I started doing these mental health spaces, I was like, why shouldn't I put this out there for the world to see, you know, so that people can understand that they're not alone, and also maybe liberate others to speak about their own mental health in a public domain. So it really just kind of just came about when I was in these mental health spaces, and I was like, maybe I should just share my writing. And I think another dimension to that was that no one was really doing writing or poetry. I'd done research and there was a couple out there, but no one had really tried to spearhead it and really go for it and take it by, you know, the bull by its horn. So I was like, well, maybe I can trailblaze here. Maybe I can inspire others to not just speak about their mental health, but also know that there is a place in the NFT world for poetry and spoken word. And it just all came together pretty nice. And obviously Friday went really well. So I can't complain too much. And I'm glad that I did it, because I think it really, having seen the response and the people that would reach out and say like, this specific one resonated with me, or I felt this one, like I've been here, that was a really cool feeling because it allowed them to explore those feelings maybe through a different medium that they weren't used to, and that's pretty cool.
Maybe it made them also feel like they weren't alone in those feelings. And that's what I
Definitely.
really liked about your art and your poetry. My favorite one was The Fallen, because I personally resonated with that. I'm not going to get it too much into my backstory because this is about
Sure.
you, but it resonated with me in similar experience, having to deal with, you know, a premature loss and dealing with those grieving feelings, and how could this happen to me? It made me feel like I wasn't alone too in those feelings. um
Sure.
do you
Yeah.
have a favorite poem in your collection?
Yeah, it's the 10th one. It's Naive is my favorite. I shouldn't have favorites. They're like my kids, but I do. That one was a massive one for me because it was the point in which I stood up for myself. You know, if you read a lot of those poems, it was, I wouldn't call it a pity party, but it was very much like me trying to like work through these feelings, understand what they meant and how that made me feel. Whereas Naive was very much a an ode to, okay, yeah, I'm feeling this way, but like that shouldn't shackle me or, you know, debilitate me in trying to be great. And that was just, I guess you can see from how it's written, it was very much pull yourself together. You know, you can be great despite all of this trauma and these troubles that have gone on in your life. You can be whoever you want to be. And I think that point in time that I really managed to stand up, that's why that holds so much significance for me in my life, because that's really kicked on, I think, not only being able to get out of my depression, but also now being able to inspire others to do the same.
Must be a pretty validating feeling hearing and seeing so many people resonate with your poetry. You sold out in 2 hours, and then your last one, Naive, went up for auction, and there was a bidding war, or not a friendly bidding competition between
Yeah.
some of your followers. Can you tell me about the auction and how that went?
Yeah, it's always an awkward feeling, right? Because you want like everyone to have access to it. You want everyone to like be able to have it. And I think there was like 4 or 5 people that were kind of in the hat for trying to obtain it. And yeah, it's a weird one, right? You don't want to like be like, hey guys, like the auction's still going, because you want to respect the current person that's the highest bidder. And I think, you know, the way I approached it is I would just, you know, make a tweet and say, thank you so much, so and so, for putting this bid on. And, you know, going that route rather than trying to like advocate, oh, actually, can someone bid this up? And it just, yeah, it happened very organically. There was a few people that really run it up, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. I had a couple of people, they were like, yeah, I'm getting this. And then it got to a price point where a couple of people got priced out, which was a shame. But this one guy, Crypto123, he was like, no, I don't care what it costs. I'm getting it. And that was a really cool feeling for me. And I think another thing is that there was a guy called Richard who I actually didn't have any correspondence with prior to the collection. And he just kind of came out of thin air and put some really, like, a couple of big bids in on it as well. And he just, you know, it was a lovely opportunity to connect with him, even though he's not technically a collector because he didn't get it. To now, I consider him a collector still, because he like really ran that price up for me and enabled it to end up where it did. And he really believed in the piece too. So he, you know, he's near and dear to my heart as well, because he really showed in that moment that he didn't even really know me, but he really believed in me as an artist, and that will forever be remembered, especially it being my first collection.
So now that you've sold out all your pieces, the auction happened, beautiful auction. You have another piece, Keep the Faith. It's out on Foundation. Can you tell me what this poem is inspired by, and maybe some of the feelings that you hope people feel or resonate with?
Yeah, definitely. So this piece was written a year ago, right in the heart of the pandemic. I mean, I know we're still under the pandemic right now, but it was like right when I feel it was breaking point for a lot of people. And I really wanted to put something out there that would try and inspire and give people hope about the pandemic, you know, post pandemic, and make people realize that the reason that we're being patient right now is so that we can do what we need to do after the pandemic. We can kind of resume normality in the future. So it was kind of a way, a rally cry to others to kind of say, hey, like, we can do this. We need to pull together. We need to understand like what it is that we're fighting for, which is humanity, and we can get through this together. But we have to do it together. We can't, not some people can, abide by the rules and then other people can't. It needs to be all of us, and that was kind of what I tried to communicate through that piece. So it's really just contemporary commentary on the pandemic. I wanted to do that as a one of one because it has historical context. One day someone will find that and go, wow, this is how someone felt that was living through the pandemic of 2020, 21, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's why it's special to me. I wanted to do it as a standalone because it didn't obviously fit the mental health category. And then I've got another piece I'm probably going to mint within the next couple of days that's based on the last political cycle in the United States. So a very, very contentious one that might ruffle a few feathers. So I'm treading very lightly with that one because when that drops, I do feel like some people will not agree with what I have to say. But as you know, I'm not afraid to say what I think and stand by that. So I will own that. And if people want to contest it, then they don't have to buy it. But hopefully there will be someone out there that they do agree with me, and that will lead to hopefully them buying that piece.
Well, Jack, I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to that new piece. I think art in some ways should be unrestricted in that it shouldn't be censored in the fact that we need to express our feelings, because even if you feel those deep down emotions like sadness, even anger or hatred, how can you feel those and not learn what it is to truly appreciate real happiness? You have to feel those in order to feel the happiness, to feel the love, and to resonate it, and to make it, to actually feel the love and spread love, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think that we should have free speech. I think it is something that is dissipating in the real world right now. I think we don't often feel we can speak how we feel for fear of the social repercussions or cancel culture. And I don't think I verge on cancel culture by this poem, but it is very, it's very apparent how I stand on this particular issue. And I know not everyone's going to agree with me, but that's fine because that's, I'm staying true to myself and what I believe in, and that's that. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the fallout of that is. But at the same time, I'm excited to again showcase to others that you can be free with your speech, and that's what art is. Like you said, that's what art is the ability to express yourself. And yeah, I'm excited about it. So we'll see.
Well, if people want to get in contact or follow you for this drop and future drops, how can they reach you, or how can they follow or participate in these spaces?
Sure, absolutely. So my Twitter handle is @Wardale Jack. So it's just my last name first, my first name second. I don't know whether I thought I was James Bond at the time of making that, but that's kind of the lay of the land there. And then if you go on my Twitter profile, you'll see in my bio my OpenSea account, my foundation account, and my Discord. My Discord is kind of like my inner circle. I call people in my Discord my family. The Twitter spaces are great. That's community. But if you're on my Discord, I consider you family, because that's like my inner circle, and that's the quickest way to get a hold of me, because I want to reward those that are not only in my Discord but are actively participating in discourse. So yeah, those are the primary ways to find me. You can go on my Instagram, which is the exact same handle as my Twitter. I'm very infrequently on there now due to obviously all of the commitments with Twitter, but yeah, that's the main way to find me, Twitter.
I'll make sure to post the links below too, all the official links, linking to your Twitter, linking to your OpenSea, to your foundation, all below. If you really like this video and you want to see more, please hit the share, hit the like button, share it with your friends. Let's get the word out about, poets like Jack. Let's get the word out about artists like Amos, like all these other really fantastic artists in the space. we're in these Twitter spaces, and sometimes I feel like we can get siloed in. So that's why I'm trying to attack the Google algorithm and post content here, so that way people can see and share. So again, thank you so much, Jack. I'd love to have you back on in future episodes.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to some knowledge bombs you drop in upcoming spaces, because they blow my mind. I'm so thankful to be
Yeah,
participating.
absolutely. I'm just as thankful to have you there, man. And I just appreciate this platform you're building. You're super early, right? So just keep doing this, keep consistent. And I have a sneaking suspicion that you will be one of the NFT curators of the future, when you have the ability to pull pretty much anyone from the platform to speak to, because of this lovely space that you're creating, and like you said, giving artists like me a chance to have a voice. So I just want to say I appreciate that, and I'm so lucky to call you a friend as well.